This was the last slide we saw on skin chapter. Let's continue. So in this figure, we can see how a keratin is formed. Keratin layer, how it is formed. So let's see from the base. So these are basal cells. They have tonofilaments or keratin filaments. As they move to the next layer, stratum spinosum, there are extra cell structures like lamellar bodies along with tonofilaments. Now when you go to the next layer, that is granular layer, there are keratohyalin granules and tonofilaments, keratin filaments. Then slowly these lamellar bodies discharge their lipid contents into the next layer, that is stratum corneum. So the stratum corneum is the keratin layer. So keratin includes keratin filaments and the keratohyalin granules. So whatever contents are in the keratohyalin granules, that will be discharged along with the dead cells and also the tonofilaments, which are the structural framework, which forms the structural framework of the cell. So all of this will together form a thick layer on the top of the skin, that is keratin layer. So there are keratinocytes in the skin and the epidermis, which are more in number. Also, there are non-keratinocytes, which are Langerhans cells, Merkel cells, then melanocytes. So each of these non-keratinocytes are having different functions. Langerhans cells are dendritic cells or antigen-presenting cells. So they are located in stratum spinosum. Merkel cells are the cells which are sensory cell or tactile cells which can detect the touch sensation. Melanocytes are the one which impart color to the skin. Melanocytes are derived from neural crest cells. Now let's see in detail regarding epidermal dendritic cells. They have a lot of processes. These are passing to the superficial aspect as well as the deeper aspect. Any antigen present on the skin or any microbial organism which is present on the skin or which is trying to invade the skin will be detected by the epidermal dendritic cells, and they will present the antigen, that foreign body, to the blood. Because we should remember one thing, that the epidermis is avascular. Blood vessels are not going to be present in this area. So for an immune reaction to occur, there is always a, a need of a blood need of a blood. So antigen has to be get contacted with the blood, then we can have an immune reaction. So since it is avascular and blood vessels are not reaching here, an antigen which is presenting here or it is there in this area cannot be presented to the blood. But through the epidermal dendritic cells, the antigen can be presented to the blood vessels which are present in the dermis. That is the importance of Langerhans cells. Coming to the next layer, dermis. Dermis is called corium. So it is a layer deep to epidermis. So in this, the epidermis has been removed to show the dermis, and dermis has two layers: a superficial aspect, this area, that is papillary layer, which is very close to epidermis, and a deep layer, that is reticular layer. Now, papillary layer has got some projections, as in this figure, whereas a reticular layer, which consists of a lot of reticular fibers, which looks like a net. Now, papillary layer is a superficial layer which is close to the epidermis, as we discussed now, but it is separated from the epidermis by basement membrane. So this is a basement membrane on which the stratum basal is resting. Stratum basal of epidermis. The superficial papillary layer is uneven and it is interdigitating with epidermis in an uneven way and forming dermal ridges. So these unevenness, these projections of the dermis are called dermal ridges or dermal papillae. It is clear in this picture, dermal papillae, the projections which are here. Reticular layer is a deeper layer. This area contains epidermally derived structures like sweat glands. So there are sweat glands, hair follicles, sebaceous glands, which are attached to the hair follicles. In this figure, hair follicle, sebaceous glands, hair follicle, sebaceous glands. So this can be seen. Now in the reticular layer, there are a lot of connective tissue which consist of collagen fibers type 1, elastic fibers which are closely packed, and there are a lot of connective tissue in this area which forms certain lines on the body surface that cannot be seen, but there are some lines. These are called as Langerhans lines. Now the interdigitation of the epidermal ridges, so these are epidermal ridges with the dermal ridges, is called as rete apparatus, or the interaction where the epidermis and the dermis comes in contact with each other. This area is called rete apparatus. So this pattern is different from individual to individual and location to one location to other location of the body. So because of this peculiar pattern, it produces fingerprints on the skin, which is also different from individual to individual. One thing should be emphasized here, that the thick skin and the thin skin are keratinized. But the keratinization on the thick skin would be more in amount comparing to thin skin. But remember, both of the skin are keratinized. Here, this area is a keratin. This is thick skin. In this area, thin skin. The thickness of the keratin is different in thick skin and thin skin. There are other differences as well. Hair follicles are present on thin skin, whereas here it is absent. There are major differences. Let's see in the next slide. Okay, before that, let's talk about appendages of the skin. They are sweat glands, eccrine sweat glands, apocrine sweat glands. These are another type of sweat gland. Sebaceous glands, hair, erector pili muscle, and nails. Let's see each of the skin appendages in detail. Typical sweat glands. Typical sweat glands are seen throughout the skin, and they are an example of simple coiled tubular glands, and they are located in the dermis. This one. Now the next one is apocrine sweat gland. These are seen only in particular parts of the body like axilla, areola of the nipple, and anal region, and they are representing a vestigial scent glands. So these areas, these glands, it produces the sweat, and also it produces smell, scent, which are again peculiar to subject. Now the apocrine sweat glands are here. They are going to open into the hair follicle, and eccrine sweat glands, which are present here, these are opening directly onto the skin surface. So there is one difference between eccrine and apocrine sweat glands. So as I described earlier, Sweat glands are directly opening into the skin surface, whereas apocrine sweat glands, they are opening onto the hair follicle, just superficial to the opening of sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands are also opening onto the hair follicles. Sebaceous glands, they are going to secrete oily substance which is called sebum, which is going to maintain the softness of the skin. These are sebaceous glands. And the duct of the sebaceous glands are opening into upper one third of follicular canal, and they discharge the secretion onto the hair shaft, and through the hair it reaches the skin surface. Now, hairs are filamentous keratinase structures that are projecting from the surface of the skin. So they are seen all over the body, excepting lips, palms, side of the palms, soles, sides of the feet. So these areas we have the thick skin. So thick skin does not have hair. Then again, dorsum of distal phalanx of the fingers and toes. These areas, glans penis, nipple, glans clitoris, labia minora, vestibular aspect of labia majora. These areas, hairs are absent. Now the visible part of the hair is called the shaft. Now this area is called hair follicle. So it's an invagination from the epidermis. Epidermis invaginate into the dermis, and even it can invaginate into the hypodermis, and that forms the hair follicle. Hair follicle give rise to the hair. Now looking into the structure of hair, hair bulb is an area which is the base of the hair follicle. This area. Here the cells divide and grow, and they are going to build the hair, or the hair is going to emerge from this area called hair bulb. Now looking into the structure of hair shaft, it has got three regions: medulla, cortex, cuticle. Medulla, cortex, and cuticle. So three areas can be seen. This is a cross section of the hair. Now coming to the structure of hair follicle, which is seen at the bottom of the hair, consists of three parts: inner root sheath, inner root sheath, outer root sheath, and a connective tissue layer or glassy membrane. Now this is hair shaft, this is hair follicle. Now the layers of inner root sheath are cuticle, Huxley's layer, Henle's layer. Then you have external root sheath and the glassy membrane. So these are the layers of hair. So hair shaft and the follicle. Now another interesting muscle here is arrector pili muscle, which is a smooth muscle which is extending from the hair follicle to the papillary layer of dermis. Even it has attachment to the epidermis. Now coming to the arrector pili muscle, the function of arrector pili muscle. Arrector pili muscle, when it is contracting, it can change the angle of the hair shaft. Now usually the hair is placed obliquely, as we can see this diagram. But when the arrector pili muscle, when it contracts, the hair shaft becomes straight like this, in this way. Now this is obliquely placed. It makes an angle here. This is the obtuse angle, which is produced by the hair shaft and the skin surface. So always the arrector pili is attached to the obtuse angle of the hair. So when it contracts, it pulls the base of the hair follicle. Then the hair shaft becomes straight, and this is responsible for goosebumps. Nails are located on the distal phalanx of the fingers and the toes, and are having, or they are formed of a keratinized epithelial cells. So basically, they are going to arise from a structure called nail plate. Nail plate. So this is a structure of nail. This is a nail, and this area is a nail plate. This area from where the nails are going to get derived. This is nail plate. This one. There are some other features of the nail in detail. So nail matrix is an area, or germinal matrix is an area which is seen at the region of nail root. So if you consider this as nail, this is the body of the nail, this is the root of the nail. Just below that, there's an area which is called germinal matrix, which is just below the proximal nail fold. So these are proximal nail fold, these are lateral nail fold. So just beneath this, there is germinal center or germinal matrix. The stratum corneum of the proximal nail fold forms eponychium. Now, stratum corneum is a layer of the epidermis. So this area, the stratum corneum, that is going to form eponychium. So this part is eponychium. This one is eponychium. Again, you can see the nail bed. The nail matrix can be seen at the nail root. This area is eponychium. Coming to the summary of the skin, the differences between thick and thin skin. Considering the layers of epidermis, thin skin has all the layers except stratum lucidum, whereas thick skin has the 5 layers. Thickness of thin skin 0.10 to 0.15 millimeter, whereas thick skin 0.6 to 4.5 millimeter. Epidermal ridges are absent in thin skin, whereas it is present due to well-developed dermal papillae. Dermal papillae is well developed in thick skin. Hair follicles, erector pili muscle, and subsebaceous glands. They are present on thin skin, whereas in thick skin they are absent. Sweat glands are few here, thin skin, whereas thick skin it is many. Sensory receptors are less, thin skin, and thick skin they are more. Coming to the distribution, it is covering all the parts of the body excepting palms and soles. Whereas here, thick skin it is going to cover palms of the digits and soles. Now coming to this point, epidermal ridges, they are well developed in thick skin. That is the reason you will see that the fingerprints they are seen on the thick skin. So this all regarding skin. Thank you.